educative, and analytical, getting to the real issues that affect an ordinary individual in areas of leadership, governance, social, and economy. The truth, the lies, and politics.
Welcome to The Truth, the Lies, and the Politics. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. It's been an interesting week this week with quite a number of developing stories that have been taking place here. NUP, is it a party for an individual? It is a case that is in court. This week also we got news of the passing of the late Alhaji Nasser Sebagal. And we'll have a moment to give as a station to be able to speak our tributes to him. But also, are you ready for an FDC flag bearer for the presidency of this country? That is something that we'll be looking at. But today on the set, I have two guests. One, is Uganda ready for a female president? That is the question all of us should be thinking about. In the studio today, I have Nancy Kalembe, Mission 56, a presidential aspirant, and we'll be discussing what is our plan for this country. But also, as we draw closer and the fever picks up of the elections in this country, are you ready to vote? Is the Electoral Commission ready with the numbers of COVID that are picking up to run an election in this country? So today I have the spokesperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Paul Bukenya. He'll be speaking to us. So, Nancy, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you.
Same here.
Paul, it's very good to have you.
Good to be here too. My first time on Spirit TV.
Yes, and this week, this whole period was celebrating 1 year.
Oh wow, congratulations.
So you guys at some point will have to say happy birthday to us.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Nancy, I'll start with you. How has the journey on the looking for the votes, getting people to get your signatures out there, how has it been?
It's been tough.
Okay.
As was expected, that bit is not shocking. But it has also had a lot of things to learn along the way.
Okay.
The more people you interact with, the more you learn a few things. Some can be rather worrying.
Yes.
But I'm a very hopeful person in general. So the more that I've seen that can be worrying is an opportunity to see what we can do about it once we are in office.
Okay. But I want us to start on a different note today. I want us to be able to pay tribute to the late Alhaji Nasser Sebagal. One of the things that I remember so much about him was he was very hilarious when he pulled out a quote in Luganda. So I'll start with Paul. I know you are a government official, but he's a fallen hero. What do you remember about the late?
Well, I grew up just below this hill. I grew up, first I was born on Sentema Road, and then I grew up on Waga Road. So I've one of the few probably who have seen him in the politics, coming up and participating in elections where he contested as a candidate. And he brought a new style and redefined, political, political. He redefined the politics of Kampala, and suddenly one of the people from among the Seya, that's why the word came from Seya, the common man who came into the office, and it set a standard that has picked up everywhere and created popularity. And he will be missed. I think he played his part, and he lived his time. He enjoyed himself. He loved enjoying himself. We're not so close, but from a distance I could tell that. I therefore convey my condolences to the family, to the people of Kampala, to the business community which he inspired. You can do business, you can succeed in business, you can also enter into politics, and you can succeed in politics as well.
Nancy, what do you remember about the fallen hero?
I never met him in person.
Yes.
But when we talk about ordinary people getting into positions of leadership, for me that was the most outstanding thing about him. He was the very first person that I recognized or saw that demystified politics in our country, and we learned that it was not only for the elite or only for the people who were. There's a way our politicians are. We had cut them out to be, and he was very different. He had the ability of making everybody feel comfortable around him. And the fact that he would walk around freely and interact with people, it showed a side of leadership that I think was lacking very much in our country. It was not about him elevating himself, but him going down and trying to be ordinary. Of course, there were a lot of funny stories we remember that he had a good sense of humor, but I liked his confidence. His confidence was encouraging.
That's very true.
So
and,
may his soul rest in peace. We pray that his family will be strengthened and in this period and comforted.
And as a station, we stand with the family, we pray with you, and I pray that even in this trying time, God will hold you and bless you. And let's hold on to the memories that he gave us. That's all we can hold on to now and keep his legacy going. But let's dig into the politics that is before us. And I'll start with you, Nancy. Nancy, you're running for the presidency of this country. Why? And why should Ugandans vote you?
I'm running for the presidency of this country because I believe, I can see that Uganda has a leadership gap, and it is important for that leadership void to be filled urgently.
Yes.
Why should people vote for me? I'm not business as usual. I'm bringing something different to the table. Ugandans have been crying about change. And I've told Ugandans that I'm the embodiment of the change that they've been crying about. We need a peaceful transition in this country. I stand for peace. We need a leader that is going to be hands-on, someone who understands the challenges of everyday people because they've walked that road. And it's not about politicians as usual, but people who have a heart for this nation that actually will get down and fold up their sleeves and do the hard work. We have challenges in this country, such as poverty, that for a long time we've been trying to touch the very tops, but no one is willing to go to the very foundation of why is there poverty that is like this? Why are the people of Uganda like this? Why are they so aggravated? Why are they so angry? There's a reason, but most of the leaders have avoided it. And we need a leader who is real. It's not about optics anymore. It's about being real, having a servant heart, and coming up to deal with the issues straight on. I think we've come to a time in Uganda where it's not about talking good and talking about just the statistics. You see, Ugandans are not statistics. They are human beings, individuals who are struggling with certain issues. When leaders sit in their offices or in their places and start discussing things like GDP, what policy is this, what policy is this, it looks good on paper. But what is the real foundation of the challenges that we are facing? Policies are good and looking good on paper, but are the real issues being tackled?
Nancy, I just want to follow up with a question before I get to Paul. Many would say Nancy has not been a local authority, has not been a member of parliament, and she's going for the top office. Wouldn't this be your inexperience that people are pointing to, and what would you say to that?
Inexperience, I disagree with that, because as a Ugandan, going for the highest office shouldn't be about business as usual. The political leaders that we have political experience for what is happening now. But clearly Ugandans are not happy with what is happening now. So my question has always been, do we need political experience to move Ugandans from where they are now to where we want to be? We want to move Uganda to a first world nation. But we've not yet even attained middle income status. Our leaders have political experience, but I think we need to look closely at what this political experience is.
So
when we look at our leaders,
that you have leadership experience.
I have leadership.
And no political experience.
I don't have political experience, but I do have leadership experience.
What's the difference between the two?
This is the difference. when you're a leader, leadership is reflected in every aspect of your life.
Yes.
Whether you're a mother is a leader at home, a business manager is a leader, a pastor or reverend bishop is a leader. As long as you have an ideology or a heart or a vision that causes people to rally around you and follow you, you are a leader. Now, political leadership mostly talks about governance in nations, right? Mostly nations. Yes, we have politics in church. You will talk about work politics and church politics maybe, but in this case, when we talk about political leadership, most people are talking about public servants. And I believe that Ugandans know the difference. We have a lot of leaders that have experience, but do they have integrity? Corruption is on the increase. Ugandans are continuously being impoverished. I say that particularly because the poverty we have in Uganda, I believe, is artificial. It has been artificially created. So do we want to continue having leaders with political experience that has gotten Uganda to where it is now? Or do we want a different kind of leader that is actually going to come and try and move Uganda from where it is and work with Ugandans? Our group is called Mission 56. I'm an independent candidate. Our mission is to the 56 tribes of Uganda. Uganda has become so fragmented along tribal lines. It's very difficult to walk into an office and the first question they don't ask you is, what tribe are you? So you find a lot of people in Ugandan offices, whether in politics, in ministries, that have jobs because they belong to a certain tribe. They belong to a certain religion. They belong to a certain political party. But is this what is going to turn Uganda into a middle income status, or is it turning Uganda into a meritocracy? Now, when you think about turning Uganda into a meritocracy, you're talking blindness to certain things that divide us. I need to put leaders in place because of their abilities, their talents, and their heart to serve, their mindset, not about religion and political parties and tribe. It's not necessary. So the political experience that our leaders have now is not what Uganda needs to move from where we are to where we would like to go.
Nancy, let me come back to you, and you have quite a number of things that you talk about, the politics, the leadership, and we're going to come back to that, and we're going to dive into other things that are happening for you to be able to explain to us. But today we want also to look at the Electoral Commission. How far are they, even with the COVID numbers going to 8,000 and about 3,000 of them being active, how far are they in preparation? Have they changed their game plan? What are they looking at? So Paul, how far is this electoral process? And has anything changed to meet the challenges that we're facing now? Because the numbers are at 8,000. I've just read in the papers today, the people that are coming in country are being told to self-isolate from their homes because the institutions, the hospitals are full. How far has there been any change in this roadmap to meet these challenges?
The electoral roadmap is progressing.
Okay.
The various activities that we set out and outlined in the revised roadmap are on course, and one of them is here. the players and the activities. So she can talk about that. But yes, what we're doing right now is to get into now the phase where the election now is getting phases, because we've been doing various activities in the field, on the systems, the technology, procurements, and all these other arrangements. But now we're into the nomination phase, where we start nominating candidates for various elective positions.
Yes.
We also already started on the elections, because we've conducted elections for different elective positions at special interest groups.
Yes.
We, for example, the youth,
what have you learned
older
from
persons.
the different, from the youth to the special interest groups? What have you learned that can be better when the general elections come? Because the general elections are going to be big.
The general elections have started,
yes,
because the special interest groups build up and
yes,
help us to build electoral colleges, which, for example, vote for the youth MPs, the persons with disabilities, and the workers, for example, and the older persons and other special interest groups. But of course, in the process of the first activities, we've observed certain areas that requires us to look at our guidelines, for example, strengthen certain areas. There's been compliance with some of the measures we put in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19, but we've also seen, especially in urban areas where during elections, especially for like the youth, they turned up in large numbers and did not observe the SOPs. So our engagement with the people needs to reflect, that, so that we put emphasis on, taking more caution as we participate in electoral activities, given the fact that there is COVID-19 around us.
And that is exactly where I wanted to go. The youth elections have been done. You have started on the special interest groups. Today I saw that the Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago, was nominated, which is something that has happened. The SOPs, we came into the studio, and before I got this mic, you gave me sanitizer to be able to sanitize the mic, and we're trying as much as possible to keep these SOPs. How are you going to do it for the general elections with all the places that you have to have voting going on and keep the people putting on their masks? Because if these numbers are going up, we need to be paying attention to it. And can you guarantee a peaceful election looking at what happened with the youth elections?
Well, first of all, fighting COVID-19 is going to call for a personal decision. Individuals need to make decisions that I'm going to take measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 at personal level. I'm going to move with my mask. I moved with my mask. I'm going to, keep distances, and I'm going to sanitize at every opportunity that I have. And then I'm going to share the same message around. So our messaging is focusing at that. We need you alive. Timothy, by February 8th, the electoral calendar will be done. The roadmap will be done. They will be live after the 8th of February. There will be jobs to do. There will be gardens to tend to. There will be families to take care of. So we are sending a message that don't get excited by the political season and throw away caution. Participate in elections in a safe manner. And that's why we've advised candidates that engage the electorate in manner that does not bring them together in big numbers.
But
Don't
Paul,
do processions.
And I'm glad, and I'll be coming back to Nancy. Let's look at what really happened. Youth elections. Let's also look at the NRM primaries, the violence that was there. We look at the youth elections. Some of them you had to suspend them.
Sure.
Some of the people that came there, I agree with the personal touch to it to be able to do that. But can you guarantee a peaceful election with what we have seen with the primaries of NRM and what we have seen with the youth elections, the violence that we saw?
Of course, the law requires us to ensure that peaceful conditions exist for elections to be conducted. We do not organize violence. We don't organize violence. That one, I should state it. We organize elections. And so our vote education messages is for peaceful and harmonious coexistence. We live with differences. I want to vote for another candidate, you vote for another candidate, and life moves on.
But
so
Paul, this shows the temperature that is happening out there.
Yeah, sure, and we've noted that. And like I said,
people like me and the people who are watching us everywhere, everyone is watching, and this could be a hindrance to shun elections.
Sure, it can keep people away. First of all, there's COVID-19, which could potentially keep people away. But now, if you also see a pattern of violence, it could also keep people away. I don't want to lose my limb because of elections, which come and go. So I think it has informed. We have guidelines, but also it informs part of what we need to strengthen in our operational as we operationalize these guidelines. But also, the most important thing is engagement. So how are we engaging with the stakeholders? How are we engaging with candidates and their agents? Because candidates have a lot of influence over their supporters. And then the civil society, the other centers of influence that can speak to the people. So that, because this stopping, rather having a peaceful election is not about electoral commission issuing guidelines and all that. We cannot be on the villages where you stay. We cannot be in the communities where these things are happening. It is us, people in the communities. That's why our messaging now goes back to appeal to our our sensibilities. This is a shop we'll need after the 8th of February. It is our shop where we buy things in the trading center. Why should we ban it? This is our school. This is our well. This is where we get our water from. So I think it will take all of us, and it will need to be a decision that we take. But also, the candidates, they have a lot that they can influence in this area. They speak directly to the people. They mobilize them. And we're encouraging that as much as possible, especially in a time of COVID-19, candidates should engage the voters and their supporters in a manner that does not bring large crowds together. But this is also another where we, come in and drain on potential triggers for violence. We are responsible, and we're going to harmonize the candidates' campaign meetings. You cannot be in a certain place where your voters, the supporters, will meet and clash. So that's one way of ensuring that the possibility, the chance of opposing groups meeting is minimized. But of course, we have also said that mass public rallies will not be allowed in this environment of COVID-19.
Let me come back to you, Nancy. Nancy, come 8th of February, like Paul has said, you emerge the first female president of this country, God willing, and you have no parliament because you are an independent. NRM has a number there, NUP has a number there. How are you going to push bills through when you are president with no parliament?
You see, Timothy, democracy was started in Greece. And as it has moved to different nations, it has evolved. And the first world nations have tailor-made democracy to suit them, to fit them well. African countries have a tendency to just copy and paste and take everything as it is given to us. And when we look at the democracies in other countries, they have fewer things dividing them than we do. In Africa, we have a lot of allegiance to our cultures, our tribes, and that's already has always been causing a lot of division within our nations. Now, coming to the question you've asked about come February 8th, and I am the first female president. A parliament is a representation of people's needs. The people in parliament are supposed to speak on behalf of their people. There are general subjects that the people suffer from. When we talk about poverty, lack of jobs, and all these things that are really causing friction in our nation right now, corruption, there are things that anybody, regardless of your tribe or political party, will agree on. I would like to introduce, first and foremost, a kind of democracy that allows multi-parties to act freely. Right now we've seen multi-parties, the different political parties are not free to do what they need to do. And yet when they are left free to work as the different political parties, who is the beneficiary at the end of the day? The ordinary Ugandan. Because if in my village, UPC comes in and builds a hospital, DP will want to prove that they are a bigger party. They'll probably build a school. And another political party will come in, maybe movement, and build something bigger. Who is the beneficiary at the end of the day? The ordinary Ugandan. But we've seen that over the years, we have political parties. We have a multi-party system on paper. But in actual, when we get to the ground, it's just in words and people talking maybe on TV stations or radio stations, but they're not allowed to fully exercise their rights as parties. And I like to give the analogy of school and sports. I was a sportswoman, still am. We had houses in school. We have colors, blue, yellow, red, purple, and different colors in different schools. And all the students belonged to different parties, to different colors. I will refer that to government as political parties. And the teachers in the schools also belonged to the different houses. But the headmaster was indifferent to all the colors. I would like to introduce Ugandans to a kind of democracy that brings us together and causes us all to benefit and grow together.
And
how about...
Nancy, that's where I wanted to ask you a question, and we discussed this before we came on set. We hosted General Muntu here, and I'm hosting you. And the things you were speaking about are foreign to this country. The democracy you're talking about is not what is here. The president, when a bill has to pass, will call a caucus and take NRM MPs away. They'll discuss something, the resolution will be made there, and they'll come. It's the same headache you're going to have if
Exactly.
you're the first
But
president.
let me get this point to the very end. As I was talking about this headmaster not belonging to any house, we need a president that is non-partisan, so that we can build.
That sounds like a CEO, Nancy.
Maybe that is what Uganda needs. We need a president that is non-partisan, so that they will objectively work with the leaders that they choose. That they will objectively choose leaders and place people of abilities in different offices without pinpointing, because you're in my party, therefore I put you in such and such a place. I'm running as an independent candidate because I want to serve Ugandans. That is why we are called Mission 56, to the 56 tribes of this nation. And right now, as a president, I will not be looking at parties. I will be looking at the needs of Ugandans. And I hope that the Ugandans right now will choose leaders. Will choose leaders not because of party, but because of character, and because of ability, because of personalities, not tribe, not party, not religion. If we want to get out of poverty, we want to get out of the oppressive kind of leadership we have, where you can't speak freely or they pick you up. We've started even having, it's like a test. You have to have been tear gassed, you have to have been beaten, you have to have been harassed in order to prove that you're a leader. Ugandans have embraced a certain politics that is not foreign to us, just like democracy in the beginning was foreign to us. We had kingdoms in Uganda. Democracy was introduced slowly. Evolving, the world is evolving, and we cannot stay static. There is a way of politics that Ugandans have been used to, but they are clearly tired of it. So it is now our opportunity to take a step and vote in a leader who is going to unify Uganda, so that it is all about working together to grow. Other countries have achieved it. Our neighbor Tanzania achieved it. It's about ability, not politics. And in Parliament, I believe that the honorable members of Parliament that will come into the House will have the hearts, the sensibility, and the honorability to put in place policies that serve the general good of the people that they represent, not policies that serve themselves. A leader does not have to coerce, convince, pay, or promise certain goodies to members of Parliament to get a health bill out, to get a bill that is going to support local investors out. You see what I mean?
Yes.
It has to be a leadership of sensibilities, of honorability, not politicking. That's why the political parties are good, because as I become president, I'd like to let them run free so that they can compete through the 5 years. Let them compete and serve their people freely, as long as it's not violence and they are serving their people in ways that benefits them. They're building better schools so that we can. When I was growing up, we had church schools, we had Muslim schools, we had missionary schools, and then finally they were swallowed up and became government schools. How about in this new era, we have a UPC school, a DP school, different parties, FDC school, or hospitals. Do you see how beautiful that this country will become?
And I like you talking about healthy competition, and I think that's one of the things Paul would like to see also with the electoral process. But staying with you, what sectors are you focusing on? What areas are you looking at and saying, you've talked about poverty, you've talked about health, you've talked about different areas, but 1, 2, 3 sectors that you're looking at and saying, we need to change this and we'll get to that desire?
The sectors that we're focusing on, that I would like to put a lot of emphasis on: 1, our economy; 2, our health; 3, our education system.
Okay.
Those 3, the health being the very foundation, because it touches everybody. From the time you're unborn to the time you're born, health is something you cannot avoid. So the health sector needs urgent help. because what we have now is a shell of a health sector. And it's probably because our leaders are not fully empowered. If I have to work in an environment where I have to pay my allegiance to the ruling party, or else, because exactly, I will not get treatment, I will not get certain positions regardless of how hardworking I've been or the expertise I've shown. Guess what happens? We have the wrong leaders. So when I'm talking about what I'd like to do for Uganda, first and foremost, we need to fix the leadership issue in our country.
And we're going to come back to that, because administration is one of the things I want to look at. Paul, Nancy talks about health, and we want to look at a healthy election come 2021. But also, Article 71 to Article 73 talk about how a political organization is formed. And that is a question that I want you to educate us. How is a political party formed?
Well,
and I hope you know where I'm leading you.
Political parties, formation of political parties and how they conduct their business is governed under the Political Parties and Organizations Act of 2005. And that law is clear. It provides for what is supposed to be in place. Of course, there's a process reserving a name and going through all these other processes. And also the character of a political party. It should be, reflect the Ugandan, diversity. That's why we must have support from across Uganda. It should be not based on religious or tribal basis. So the law outlines quite a number of issues that are ticked off as you register political party and organization.
I'm going to national character, because even in Article 71, it talks about national character.
Sure.
And that's where I have a challenge with the National Reconciliation Development Party. It was formed in a bar, and it was registered by the Electoral Commission. Doesn't that bring disrepute to the Electoral Commission because of registering such a party that was formed in a bar? Because it has no national character.
I do not know about the party. First of all, the party called National Unity Development Party. We do not have that. We've never even had National Unity Development Party.
National Unity Reconciliation Development Party that belong to Chibalama.
The parties that when the law came into force, we inherited registered parties, which at that time are being registered at the Registrar General, and we took them on, and we started managing the process as provided for in the Political Parties and Organizations Act. So there are certain political parties that we inherited from the previous arrangement, which put political parties in place.
So you didn't do the due diligence?
I do not want to state that, but because the parties that we took on, when the responsibility of managing the affairs of political parties, or rather regulating political parties, came to the Electoral Commission. This is not a function we had straight from the Constitution making process. We just took it upon when the Political Parties and Organizations Act came into force, and that is 2005. So, but these are registered political parties. I do not know, and I do not think it's a problem where you met to conceive the idea of coming up with a political party, whether it was under a hut or a bar or in a church or wherever it was. The moment the political parties and organizations fulfilled the requirements for registration as political parties, they were registered. And I think at that time they satisfied the requirements under the law. And they have remained on the register of political parties because they've been complying with the requirements of the law.
Okay. Chibalama and Simbwa say this was formed in a bar, and we shall move away from that. And I also want to be careful that we don't interrupt what is happening with court. We just want to discuss the registration. But also what I want to look at is how did the change happen from what Chibalama says to what NUP is right now? How did that happen? And it happened while you were there? Also perhaps because this is a matter which is before courts of law, I think we need to take caution so that we don't prejudice the proceedings. But certainly at the Electoral Commission, there is a political parties desk. And as the Electoral Commission, we've answered the questions that have been put to us. The process of change of name, applications for change of name and other processes, symbols, colors, is also prescribed in the Political Parties and Organizations Act, and we are satisfied that they were complied with along the process. So, but of course that doesn't take away the right of someone to object.
to the processes and to take them to courts of law, which is, I think, what's happening. And our defense, our explanation has been consistent like that. But you know, it's in courts of law. Maybe that's where I'm constrained to stop at the moment.
And that's why I'm treading the line carefully so that I do not get into the court proceedings. Before I get back to Nancy, what happens to the youth leaders that were elected under NUP? What happens to them?
I think we should not speculate about that. We have 26 registered political parties on our register in Uganda, and for purposes of the 2020-2021 general elections, and NUP is one of them, and it is still registered with us. We do not have any order from any authorities, and mostly certainly not from any courts of law, reversing or affecting their status as we speak. So I think we should not create unnecessary speculation and anxiety for that matter. The status is as it is. It is a registered political party, and for purposes of local government nominations, we've conducted nominations with the party as one of the 26 registered political parties. So as electoral commissions, we do not have any orders from any courts of law to stop any aspiring candidate from that party to participate. Yeah.
Here we're like the fans that watch a soccer game and are analyzing the game. So we're just on the sideline analyzing what is happening in the game. But also, wouldn't the Independent Electoral Commission call these disputed parties, because you have a political desk at the Electoral Commission, and handle this, mediate upon this before we take it to court?
We do not. While the Electoral Commission has a role and a responsibility concerning political parties, we are limited when it comes to managing internal affairs, organizing party primaries, choosing leaders, organizing annual delegates conferences. So we cannot come into...
My wife and I, you are a pastor. We have had a dispute. So you, the pastor, are saying you cannot get involved in our marriage.
Pastoral responsibility, of course, I think the analogy, while it sounds good, I think you're stretching it so far. We are limited in how far we can go as far as resolving conflicts in political parties are concerned. Parties have constitutions, which copies we do have, and when certain things happen within parties and they resort to courts of law, for example, we cannot object to that. But if a political party raises an issue and brings it to our attention, we have some quasi-judicial powers. We can hear and determine some issues and guide and counsel. But certainly we cannot direct a political party, because political parties are independent. There is a level, there is a relationship, and there are certain boundaries which we do have as Electoral Commission. There would be conflict of interest at some point.
We're going to take a commercial break here on The Truth, Lies and Politics. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. You can get in touch with us. Our WhatsApp number is just down there on your screen, and our Facebook page. We're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. And when we come back, Nancy is going to be explaining to us, how long does she plan to stay in power? 35 years? 40? This is after the break.
The truth, the lies, and politics. Informative, educative, and analytical. Getting to the real issues that affect an ordinary individual in areas of leadership, governance, social, and economy. The truth, the lies, and politics. Spirit TV, a place for you.
How are you going to know that God has answered? You will never know, because there's nothing for him to do about saving you. He's already done everything he needed to do about saving you. Christ lives in me, meaning I can say the same thing. Jesus died for us. Remember that. Who was Jesus? Son of the living God. He brought me out of darkness and brought me in. But God's word is eternal. So God's word has no timing. God is always now. Moses says, what is your name? Who shall I say sent me? He says, I am. The Bible says,
Spirit TV, a place for you.
The Electoral Commission has appointed 21st September to 1st October 2020 as the period for conducting nomination of candidates for local government councils elections for 2021. The nomination shall take place at the following venues during weekdays beginning at 9 a.m. and ending at 5 p.m. on each of the appointed dates. District City Chairpersons and Councillors, 21st September to 1st October 2020 at the District Headquarters. Municipality and City Division Chairperson and Councillors from the 21st of September to 1st October 2020 at the District Headquarters. Sub-County, Town and Municipal Division Chairpersons and Councillors, 21st September to 1st October 2020 at the County Headquarters. All persons aspiring to contest in the local government council elections are urged to familiarize themselves with the requirements for nomination for each elective position as outlined in the guidelines issued by the Electoral Commission. Aspiring candidates can collect copies of the nomination forms and guidelines from the District Electoral Commission offices in each district across the country or obtain soft copies of the forms and guidelines from the Electoral Commission website www.ec.or.ug.
Spirit TV, a place for you.
Hi, my name is Bishop Frank Butai of Restoration Assembly Church in Nakurabie. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you for the Independence Night Special Service, which is happening on the 10th of October 2020. This year, our theme is Hoping Against Hope. We're focusing on Romans chapter 4, verse 17 and 18.
The annual Independence Night is going to be live on Restoration Assembly Church Facebook page, on the Word Online Radio, and here on Spirit TV. Don't miss speakers like Apostle Grace Lubega and Queen Helen Butai. For inquiries, reach us on 0702 988 062. God bless you.
Everyone is welcome. Tell a friend who then will tell a friend to tune in that day. God bless you and see you then.
Beauty for Ashes, reaching out to the world of the heartbroken and the destitute through physical and spiritual rehabilitation, professional and pastoral counseling, rebuilding hope through the Word of God and personal life experiences. Beauty for Ashes, rescuing an endangered generation with Stella Azamadia. Every Thursday at 10 a.m. East African Time on Spirit TV. A place for you. Beauty for Ashes is made possible by the grace of God and Kingdom Finances.
The truth, the lies, and politics. Informative, educative, and analytical. Getting to the real issues that affect an ordinary individual in areas of leadership, governance, social, and economy. The truth, the lies, and politics.
Come back from that commercial break. This is The Truth, Lies and Politics. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Please feel free to get in touch with us. We're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and also our WhatsApp number is running down on the screen. You can get in touch with us. The last segment of the show will be your questions to the gentleman from the Electoral Commission and Nancy, who is running for the presidency. I still have my guests, Paul Bukenya, the spokesperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, and presidential aspirant, Mission 56, and independent, Nancy Kalembe. Nancy,
Yes.
the question we left before we went for the break. How long do you plan to stay in power? In Africa, leaders don't leave unless there's a coup. So how long do you plan to stay in power?
That is the beauty of being different. As Ugandans have been crying that they want change. And I tell them that I am the embodiment of the change that they've been crying for. Uganda has a constitution. And our original constitution took time and money. And a lot of honorable individuals, one of them was my father, by the way, the late George Patrick Bagea, was in that constituency
CA
assembly.
Of 95.
Yes, the original constitution, he
Yes.
was part of it. But it has been tweaked to suit
You use very
different.
nice words. I would have gone with abused, but Tweaked is a good word.
Edited.
Okay.
I need to be polite, but make certain points known because they're facts anyway. So the Constitution has been edited, trimmed, and stretched, and I believe that this is not only wrong against Ugandans, but our country's motto is for God and my country. I think by using your word, abuse of the Constitution, it means not only are Ugandans not being respected, but the very God from whom we receive authority is being ignored. Because the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is God. He's the only one who is forever, everlasting to everlasting. According to our Constitution, I'm talking about our Constitution before it was changed, an individual is supposed to run for presidency for 2 terms.
Yes.
So, to answer your question, first and foremost, I intend to take the Constitution back to its original, some of the things that have been changed because of individual requirements, I will call them that.
So Article
or interests.
102B of age limit, you're going to bring it back?
It has to be brought back.
Term limits are going to be brought back?
Yes, they have to be brought back because as there is no individual who can claim that only they have the plan or vision for the country. God has a vision for a nation because he sees it all. Human beings are servants. That is why servant leadership is very important. You see, when you're a servant leader, you know that it is a privilege and an honor to be in the position you are in. Meaning, you serve a higher power than yourself. So it's not about individual interests or your group's interest. It's about the interest of everybody else. If we had leaders who were transitioning constantly, we'd have the privilege of having people who can actually advise us as presidents, current presidents, because you have former presidents who are still alive that you can go back to and actually ask, I'm facing this challenge. Did you ever face it? How can I go about it? Uganda is an orphan state. And if, God forbid, President Museveni is voted in again, the talk on the street is not good. People want to now go to war. They want bloodshed. Because most of the people who are talking about bloodshed were not around in '86. They didn't see the horrifying things that we saw as children. So if our father of the nation currently, who is President Museveni, if he loves this nation, this time round, he shouldn't even run for presidency at all. He should, because he is in power and he has the artillery for keeping peace, it would be very wonderful and very honorable for him to step back and say, let us make sure that we have a peaceful transition of power, and whoever is stepping forward to run this nation, let's see how we foster a transition and help everything to be done properly, so that he helps to oversee the elections and be ready to hand over, and also be ready to help advise the incoming president. If he comes into power, and God forbid he dies while he's in power, Uganda will go back to the bloody days.
Why do you say go back to the bloody days?
Because a lot of people right now who are speaking violence don't know what it actually means to see dead people on the streets and you're jumping over dead bodies.
They're saying defiance.
You see, defiance, where is the line for defiance? When I say defiance, where is the line? We talk about defiance. It will start off by holding up placards. Next thing, tear gas. Next thing, copper bullets. Then what happens to an angry mob? Do we want to sacrifice our children? Because Museveni it is wrong to say he has not done anything. He has served his time. And we are grateful. I'm not here to discuss his achievements per se. Your question was, how long do I plan to remain in office?
Yes.
And according to our constitution, a head of state should be in office for 2 terms. That is 5-year terms.
Two of them.
Two of them. And get out and step aside and let somebody else lead.
So
I'm a law-abiding citizen. I happen to be a Christian, and principle is one of the things that God set into place right from the creation of time. We cannot start tweaking and editing principle, because then it disorients the people that you're leading. One moment, this is a movement for everybody, we welcome everyone. The next movement, this is a political party. The next moment, we are lifting age limit. We are changing age limit. Really? Would we want to have an 18-year-old as president? Or would we want to have a 90-year-old as president? I don't think so. Why? Because there are certain biological and physiological principles we cannot avoid or ignore. When we look at biology, for example, the brain continuously grows. And at a certain age, somewhere between 35 to 45, it is believed by scientists that the brain is fully formed. And if you look at biology still, there is a certain age when people start getting senile. They start to lose their... At the African Union, he said that when we look at the first world nations, their presidents are 30 and 40, and we see how fast their nations are moving. And then we have countries in Africa whose presidents are on clutches, they are dozing in sessions, they are physically weak. I believe, this is my personal belief, by the way, to be a leader of a nation, whether you're a king or president or a local leader at any level, you need to be spiritually fit, physically fit. And there are certain things that, you know, and that you cannot ignore. Then the third thing that we tend to ignore in Africa, because we have 90 and 80-year-old leaders, is the mental fitness. Can you actually tell me that the spiritual fitness cuts across the board, because you can be spiritually fit at whatever age. But when it comes to mental and physical fitness, you can't deny that. I'm a former athlete. I like sports. There are competitions I can't go into right now because I'm 40 years old when I'm competing against 18-year-olds. So in Africa, if we actually want to move forward, we need to start thinking futuristic ideas. When you're above 60, you're not thinking futuristic. You either have people thinking for you, and therefore they can manipulate you. That's why we have a tendency in our government for laws to be put in place or laws to be proposed and then withdrawn. Why? Because somebody probably manipulated the leaders for these laws to be put in place. Therefore, if we are to take the wisdom of Ibrahim Mo, I think Ugandans need to choose a leader who is mentally and physically fit for the job that is at hand. We need wisdom. That is why we need our grandparents. In Africa, there is a saying that when an old man dies, it's as though a library has burnt to the ground. We need the elders for wisdom, because in my language we have a saying that goes, meaning that the eye of the elderly, what you think is the blind spot, is where he will see. Like the English say, an old broom knows all corners, but a new broom sweeps well. We need the elders to be around for advisory roles. But for the job to be done, we need people who are strong and up to the task ahead. And being a president is not an easy feat. It's not like everyday job. It is something that requires you to be alert 24/7. That is why we are told that leaders who are subject to alcohol or any other drugs, it's a problem. Why? Because that means it interferes with your mental state. And so does old age.
Nancy, let me come back to you. Let me go straight to Paul. Paul, she says physical fitness, talks about your health and all these things. This, God forbid, but this is a concern. With the COVID numbers going up, and also some of the government officers getting cases with them. God forbid, if it happens at the Electoral Commission, the chairperson,
God forbid.
God forbid yourselves, the returning officers, what happens to the elections? If the big number gets... and also, this is my concern, sorry.
Yeah.
Even through the elections, she spoke of the primaries. The primaries were lining up. Right now, we cannot even trace the community infections. Anything that comes in contact, the paper that you're going to give us to tick off, the pen that will be holding, the benzene that will be there, that is your infrastructure. Aren't you going to be leading us towards that? And also, what if you're infected? What happens to the election?
Yeah, of course, we are concerned about the environment within which we are operating, which is why the Electoral Commission came up with what we call the standard operating procedures. You know, where the SOPs have been observed,
yes,
the risk of, you know, contracting COVID-19 go down. They significantly reduce. For example, and we can do this as a country because, you know, we're opening up other areas because we can't keep locked up. Schools, churches, we've gone back to churches and other things. So if we're to avoid that, then the best way is to observe the SOPs. For example, you do not need to engage in activities that increase the risk of spread of COVID-19.
But you're going to give us one pen or a marker to tick?
Yeah,
we have. Come with my own pen on election
we have, for example, put in place for polling day, because, well, right now we're still in nominations, but for polling day, it's going to be the normal polling that we do because it is a secret ballot. So there will be a paper to receive and then tick or thumbprint and put in a box, and they'll be counting thereafter. Of course, for our officials, we have proposed and budgeted for having gloves so that there is some level of protection. Of course, the sanitizer is a must. For persons coming to vote, we are establishing or putting in place hand washing facilities for each polling station. This is a jerry can of water and a small bar of soap. You know those are useful measures at the basic. And then encouraging the use of masks. Come wearing a mask at your polling station. Protect your life is very, very important. Just like you wear the mask when you're going to do other things around in town, please, even now, put on a mask. And of course, the voter education messages. Right now, you do not see the messages because, we've not even announced the polling days. But part of the voter education that's going to be going out for polling day, because it's still doing nomination, we'll feature that. And we think when we sing the same song and repeat the message together and engage the political parties, their agents, and of course the population, we will prevent the spread of COVID-19 at that rate, and we can, because I think some countries have enforced these SOPs and they see a manageable situation.
And I want to look post-election. NRM itself has 455 cases, petitions, and those are just MPs. Then they have 177. Those are local councils. Are you ready for petitions after these elections? Because this has been the same, 2011, 2016, and that is taxpayers' money being spent on this.
Petitions are basically part of the electoral process, and we expect, when you look at the electoral cycle, we know there's a period when we will be receiving complaints relating to the election, a part of the process or even the entire process. And you do not know, it takes on there could be several reasons why someone is raising a complaint. It could be because of some action on the part of the Electoral Commission, or inaction, or on part of a candidate to a candidate, or even a voter. Someone came and tore up the posters or sparked violence, started violence, or went on a radio station and used language that's not allowed. So the triggers, or the hotspots are quite all over, and it can easily, lead to a petition. So we know, and we plan for that. But we hope and pray that we don't get that kind of scale. That's why we take effort. That's why we take measures. For example, some people have said Electoral Commission is discriminating why are you asking me about the names I've brought for you? The names on my academic documents are Nabukenya Pauline, but I also have other names I got along the way when I got married, when I converted to this religion, and we've said, please, these are the grounds for petitions. Make sure there is your particulars match. We will not nominate you until you match your particulars with supporting documents. If you change the name along the way, the journey of life, please do that. That's why we take care. And some people have said, your people are very slow at the nomination center. We say, hey, there are boxes to tick off. They are going to look at the document carefully, scrutinize it, and make sure that they have signed off everything very well. That's why we're taking all those steps and measures. But we can't avoid someone raising a complaint against the electoral process for some reason.
And this is my concern. These petitions can take 2-3 years in court.
Well, the laws provide for the period within which electoral petitions can be handled, and the courts of law know that, because now it has been made. It's part of the judicial process. Say that after elections, the court considers election petitions and must dispose of them within a certain period. The ones that keep dragging on are probably when people appeal. But yes, they are given attention because it's about leadership, and you don't want to have vacuum.
The violence that happened in Kenya, I read a quote by the Chief Justice. By the time he was declaring that they needed to have the elections, a rerun. The question is, can't the Electoral Commission handle these internally, mediate these before you put by-elections? Because a by-election is not actually a by-election, it's a fully fledged election. Because that's what happened to Honorable Chagulanyi to join Chadondo East.
Yeah, we do have powers to hear and determine complaints arising before and during elections, but not after. The moment elections are organized and conducted and a decision is made by our returning officers, then you can only go to courts of law. So between now, like now we've finished nomination of candidates, or rather we're coming to the close of nomination of candidates for local government. We are going to be seeing election complaints coming in. We've already been handling complaints arising out of special interest groups elections. When we hear those complaints and handle them, sometimes one party is not satisfied, and the only thing they can do is to go to courts of law. So petitions are expected. They are part of the electoral process, and it is a good thing that when you are aggrieved by the outcome of an election, you challenge it in courts of law, rather than going on the street and mobilizing a mob and coming and burning down a town or an office or something like that.
Just a follow-up question before I get to Nancy. Does a candidate, even when they go through the petition, are they still managed by the Electoral Commission?
I not really understood that question.
Let me put it this way. Dr. Besigye is running, the president is running for an election. Dr. Besigye is aggrieved. Is he still a candidate, and do you still oversee him?
No, it depends at what point they've made the petition. If you make the petition in the, before, like I said, we hear and determine complaints before and during elections, because even on polling day we can hear and determine a complaint. But after the elections, when we've declared, when your petition is against the decision of, or rather a declaration made by the Electoral Commission, you are no longer a candidate because we've declared the winning candidate. In other words, the elections are over. A returning officer has stood at their desk and he or she has said that by virtue of powers entrusted to me, I declare Timothy Nyangweso elected district chairperson Busia. So after that, speaking prophetically, after that, you are not our candidate, or the person complaining is no longer a candidate, because the election has been done and completed, and the winning candidate has been declared. Yeah.
Nancy, coming to you, one of the biggest challenges is the consumption of taxpayers' money by the administration. Over 100 advisors, over 80, 70 cabinet ministers, and also state ministers. What will your cabinet comprise of, and how will it look like? Will there also be MPs and also ministers? How will it look like?
An interesting question. In the beginning of this conversation, we talked about a non-partisan leader. We've seen leaders around the world in the more advanced nations who make the right decisions to put certain people in place. Yes, as human beings, there are certain decisions you'll see a little skewed because of personal interests, but in our country, I think it has gone beyond a little. We have an excessive number of ministers because we need to field so many ministers in our party. We have debts that we are paying.
And sorry, Nancy, there's something you said, Mission 56.
Yes.
And one of the biggest challenges I think the president faces is the regional balance, to be able to have representation from everywhere. So, as Mission 56, don't you think you'll have that balance there?
No, we don't. That is not a challenge. As Ugandans, we are gifted in different areas of this country. You will see people have different gifts and talents and abilities. And when we're looking at the leadership, the constitution of our leadership, it's not really about regional balance. You will see certain inclinations to certain regions or tribes when it comes to different offices, for example, or even ministries. Now, when we're talking about running a nation, and you need ministers. If I'm running, let's talk about the health ministry. What kind of people are you putting in the health ministry? Is it people who have actually passed certain tests and therefore qualify because of what their experience or training? Or do we have ministers placed in certain places because they belong to the NRM? We have a lot of, I'm sorry to say this, but we have a lot of inadequate public servants. Inadequate meaning their capacity, their training, their abilities. Even when you interact with them, you realize that they're insufficiently qualified for the position they're in. And the first question you'll ask, who is that? Oh, that is so-and-so. She's related to so-and-so. Then you understand. They got the job because they're related to so-and-so. Oh, that person is in that place because they're NRM. If we look at the current elections as they're going by, we have certain individuals who are either immune to COVID spread because they don't need to follow the SOPs, or they're immune to law and order. They can be violent as long as you're in NRM. There are certain passes that they will give you. So when I talk about a non-partisan president, I mean growing Uganda to the next level. So when we talk about the budget being constrained because of administrative, we all understand as Ugandans that there are a lot of people, the budget of the administration of this country is not going towards people who are actually doing a job, but a lot of them are placed there because of the inclination to either the ruling party or coming from a certain tribe or religion. And in my presidency, that will not be tolerated.
And I want to move to one of the sectors.
So we'll move away from the redundance. We have a lot of redundant positions. For the ministers. The ministers. Am I at liberty to discuss that now?
Let's move on from that one before you disclose some of the things where Paul is still here as the representing the Electoral Commission. Education is a passion that I know you have for this country. One of the biggest challenges is, and case in point myself who is here speaking, I'm an accountant. I mean, sitting here, I am failing someone who did journalism to be able to sit here and do this job. But also, I could have done the wrong course and ended up in the right job. How do we find the fit of our education system to produce the candidates we need for the job market that is out here? 21st century, 22nd century, and where is the problem?
The problem of most buildings is in the foundation. Our education system was adopted, copy and paste. It was good for a time because it served a certain purpose. It served in creating an extension of slavery, because then we needed to train Africans who will do our bidding. We needed to train Africans who will do the jobs that we need to do and extend our tentacles to our colonial regions. And the Africans who were in that education system benefited for a while. But our education system, right from the beginning, was not tailor-made for Africa. So I've always said that our education system needs a total overhaul. We can't fix things that are coming from the very foundation of a building, for example. You may try to fix here and there, but the wall will still crack. And our education system, if most of us who studied in the days when our fathers believed that you're either a lawyer, engineer, doctor, there are certain professions where we were pushed hard to get into, whether your interest was there or not. We had to get into those, get the degree. I attended some graduation parties where the students said, "Maze degree yachtange, katika ngene nkole degree yange." You know what I mean? Like, I've studied for my father. This degree is my father's paper. Now I need to study what I want to do. If you were good, were in school and you had combinations. I did PCB, foods and nutrition, mathematics, submath. And we were forced to do certain subjects because I was told, how many girls are good at mathematics like you are? You have to do mathematics because you're good at it. And they didn't care that I wanted to do art. They didn't care that I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do, if it was up to me, I would have done sports because I was passionate and very good at it, by the way, because I qualified for World Championships and Olympics. I could have done art because I like to draw. I like artistic things, but because our mindsets are everybody who's brilliant has to do sciences. So we were forced into sciences, not because our passion was there, but because that is the mindset that our education system had ingrained in our parents. And now we are talking about STEM.
Let me ask
and
you,
making every other subject seem like it is second class to doing sciences, which is wrong.
Then, before I get to the education that you've mentioned, is skilling, and keeping in mind that World Bank gave us money and we'll put up vocational institutes in various places of this country, is skilling vocational schools, is it the silver bullet to our education system? Can it be able to purge that foundation so that it does not crumble?
No, we need to break down the whole building and start afresh from the foundation.
But Nancy, they are continuing students. Are you going to start with the ones that are coming in now, or are you going to affect the ones that are next?
You see, we have a system that is broken down. We have primary education, we have secondary education. You can overhaul the primary education from ground up. You can overhaul the secondary education from ground up without affecting the candidates who are already there, because they've already gone through the system.
Doesn't that make them obsolete for the job market?
Not necessarily, because as human beings we have become adaptable. That is why we are the one species that has lived through every catastrophe that has happened on the earth. So when someone comes out of a system, they learn new skills. You said you did accounting. You're a journalist. You're in journalism now. As human beings, we learn to morph. The institutions that are skilling people are good because they give people opportunity to follow their dreams and to go into that direction. The challenge we have with our skilling system is that we have tailor-made the blue-collar jobs to be the ones for the intelligent. And everybody who fails to get into university is thrown to the skilling places. The skills like plumbing, electricity, and all these other skills that are on the side, and carpentry and all these, they are not supposed to be second-class qualifications. They are supposed to be qualifications like everybody else. When a teacher goes to class and a plumber sorts out your plumbing, they are actually both upstanding and honorable citizens of the country. So when we put vocational institutions and we label them as second-class institutions, the quality individuals who could have been very good plumbers or very good engineers will not go there, because first and foremost, everybody wants their children to achieve the best. So that is why I said the foundation needs to be started right afresh. Why? Because our education system, I've always said, needs we need a dual education system. So that the people who want to continue with the blue collar jobs, because yes, we need the teachers, we need the engineers, we need the doctors, but it shouldn't be that these are the only professions. If someone wants to do agriculture, let them start from the bottom up, not do agriculture at university because I failed to go to medical school, therefore I'm thrown into agriculture. You know what I mean? Yes. If we have a dual education system, people will actually fit into the jobs that they need to do right from an early age. If I'm 14 and I realize I like culinary school, I like cooking, I will go to culinary school and give it my all because it's my passion and I'm brilliant. I will go to culinary school and excel, without having second thoughts that I will be looked at as a second-class citizen to my doctor contemporaries because I didn't do medicine, for example. Therefore, instead of going to culinary school right from an earlier age, I go to a secondary school system, and then that is teaching the boulders in geography that is actually history right now, so that I can get to university, do foods and nutrition, which is not exactly what I would like to do in culinary school. You get what I mean? Yeah. So when I say that the education system needs to be overhauled so that we can build an education system that is tailor-made for our nation and our people.
Let me get back to Paul. Paul, something that has interested me is the security agencies. Who oversees the mandate of the security agencies during elections?
Yeah, electoral laws require elections to be conducted in a peaceful, environment where people are free and able to exercise their rights to vote. And for that matter, the Uganda Police is the lead agency in ensuring that the polling stations have adequate security and polling equipment, materials are guarded and delivered safely, and the entire electoral environment is calm, and there's law and order, because during elections the laws do not go away. The traffic laws remain, all these other things that are part of the law and order.
Looking at polling day,
do remain.
Polling day, yeah. We are going to the polls to vote. The police is in charge, and I also know that I have heard from Afande Onyang that even as the police is in charge, when the army is there to support them as a sister security agency, they report to the police. What I want to ask, do you supervise the security agencies?
We do not. We do have a relationship because we do not work alone. We do not have a police force of our own. Certainly we do not have a command structure of security as Electoral Commission. We organize, conduct, and supervise elections. The Uganda Police Force is the lead agency in providing security during elections.
To support you.
So, to support us perform our function. Just like Uganda Police Force would support, FUFA when they're organizing an international game to ensure that the stadium is safe and there is security for all who are participating in it. Just like it does all that.
Where I'm going with this is, how do you ensure that there is no human rights violation, especially on polling day and during this electoral season?
Polling day itself is an opportunity to exercise your rights as individuals to vote.
If you look at the youth elections and look at the NRM primaries, the police was manhandling people. People were bleeding. Someone had even the audacity of picking a gun from a police officer to turn and shoot at people. How are you going to be able to manage these security agencies and also make sure that human rights violations are non-existent in this election?
First of all, there are things that we need to know as Ugandans that relate to polling day activities. There are guidelines for polling day. There are guidelines for polling day. You know what you should do, how you should conduct yourself on polling day. That's, I think, the first thing you need to observe to avoid confrontations with anyone for that matter. It may not even be with police. It may be with fellow voters. It may be with even at home. It could start from home, because electoral-related violence actually spreads and goes even back home. Why did you vote for that candidate? Why didn't you vote for this other candidate? You know, or someone taking away your card and you know, trying to prevent you from participating in elections. So first of all, observing the guidelines, how we conduct ourselves at polling stations is a very big, it's a first step to make sure that we do not see these confrontations happening. And what do I mean by this? You present yourself, you are not drunk, you are not a nuisance, you follow the lines, you do not violate the code of conduct for purposes of the elections. You will not see those instances happening. But now when it comes to police, for example, police needs to explain how they do their operations. I'm not competent to comment deeper into that. But of course, police has a code of conduct for policing elections. How do you deal with voters? How do you manage polling day? What is your role? Polling stations are not supposed to have armed people. They are supposed to have, the constables we bring to polling stations are not armed. But the function of police remains. So if you see a police patrol vehicle passing through a town on polling day, it's not out of order. But at the polling stations, we do not allow firearms. Now, if something happens and there is chaos and disruption at a polling station, the matter of referring this to police to handle is not out of order. But now how police handles this and their operational procedures, I'm not competent to comment on so much of that. But other than saying that there is a code of conduct and we have engaged police to conduct themselves in accordance with that code of conduct and to allow and facilitate free exercise of rights. So where there is a violation, we've had issues and cases, you know, raised, and some of them have ended up even in courts of law. And now you know that police officers have been taken through the caution and the necessary warning that you will bear personal responsibility for actions that you do that are contrary to the law and the free exercise of rights. So yes, there is a relationship and there are rules of engagement between us, the voters, and the other players in the electoral process.
And sticking with you, Paul, one of the things that I think, and this is a question I put to you, what are the consequences of a candidate who has been found with malpractice? Case in point, Nancy is found, God forbid, bribing voters, saying, please give me votes. We saw that in the NRM primaries, where people are being handed money. It is going to happen in the general elections, where people are going to be handed money.
Well,
what does the Electoral Commission Act say about this, and what are the consequences?
The electoral offences that are clearly outlined in the laws, the Presidential Elections Act, Parliamentary Elections Act, and you know, the Presidential Elections Act as well. So, and bribery is one of them. So I think what we see we need to do is to be more vigilant and make sure that we report such cases, because if it's not reported, there's nothing much you can do about it. But we should also realize that some of these offenses, unacceptable acts, are taking on very dynamic forms, and people are using mobile money, they're doing all kinds of things. How do you put together evidence that this is actually a case of bribery? So I would like to state that the law is very clear, and we've had even elections nullified in courts of law because of proven case of bribery. So bribery is an offense, and it's a serious offense. To persons who are aspiring to contest, don't compromise your candidature. Don't risk your candidature by involving in bribery. You should know that. And also as the voters, we should not really drive the candidates to that, because there's a give and a taker. So it goes back to our morals and how we look at things, and issues of commercializing elections and bringing in so much money. Yeah.
And Paul, I want to get to that, but also, if you're watching us and you'd like to get in touch with us, our WhatsApp line is down there. You can send us a WhatsApp, because some texts are coming in and we need to be able to handle those. But Paul, the commercialization, and Nancy hinted on this, the commercialization of politics in this generation is getting worse. What is the Electoral Commission doing to manage this? Because now it is predicted that for you to become a member of Parliament, you need to spend about 500 million. And also, the past elections where Honorable Chagulanyi won in Chadondo East, Kantinti, who was running against you, was in prison because of debt. How are you managing that you are managing that the commercialization of politics doesn't get out of hand?
Well, the commercialization of politics and, well, our come to elections, I think is something of concern, making it look like a lucrative with lots of money being injected in is of course a concern, and it takes away.
Being a member of parliament is now a job, it's not a service anymore.
Yeah, it takes away the some values that are critical and important in democracy and participatory elections for that matter. So as the Electoral Commission, it remains a big challenge to us. How can we stop this? How can we go to every place and make sure that people do not exchange monies? And money plays a big role in politics, and for that matter in elections, because you need money, for example, to organize a meeting, you need money to put an advert on TV.
But should it
you need
be that way?
Of course, no.
We need to, and I like the way Nancy speaks about, we need to leave that, because one of the things that we were discussing off air was her saying when she gets to a place, people say, Chayali. And MPs are also complaining of the same. People are being paid, and when I get to parliament, I won't go back there because I now need to recoup the money I've spent on you.
Yeah,
isn't it the place of the Electoral Commission to be able to manage this challenge?
The Electoral Commission certainly has a role. We organize elections, and so if something goes against the norms, of elections, it becomes of a concern to us. But then it comes back to us as a society, and our morals that have gone through, I think, some radical, changes that we've seen in the past few years. Why, for example, would you, as the voters, vote in a person who is just dishing money around? I think we need values-based, campaigns. What are the messages that the candidates are sending to the people? So what about us as the people, the voters? I think it goes beyond the Electoral Commission. It involves all of us. We need a mindset change that leadership is not about this. It's not about money. It's about having a person who will represent you and support the community to progress, other than dishing out 2,000 shillings and then you cast a vote for them. Yeah, there are issues in the community that are deep and real. The basic needs they have. She talked about communities that have clear needs, and when they look at the election season, they say that this is the time for us to tap into these people. So it's a deep subject, but also the law and the laws, I think, need to be looked at to strengthen and tighten how much money a candidate, for example, can spend in a political campaign.
So are you going to do that?
We do not have that ceiling at the moment, but I think the legal framework needs to be worked on and to strengthen and tighten how much money someone can spend. We've raised those concerns. We've raised them as areas for reform, for consideration for reform and law and review of electoral laws.
And I think you should be championing that. Nancy, you had something to react to what he's saying before I get to the questions that are here.
Paul has been talking about the proof that people are bribing during the elections. If you've been watching the news, social media, and the information that is being shared in our community and society right now, there are videos, I don't know if that is evidence, there are videos of people actually handing out, because these elections were about lining up. So I see all the people who have lined up behind me, and we stand at the end and just dish out money. But the question is, these laws against bribery, are they for everybody, or are they just against those that are not under the ruling party? Because it was very clear, NRM candidates were actually dishing out money on video, live videos, going on. Does someone actually have to come to report, or can't you use this as a body to know that this is something that is against our constitution and it should be stopped? Do you have to wait for one Nancy to come and report to Electoral Commission that these things are being done, yet the videos are right now on social media? Have you called on some of these people to discuss with them, or to actually disqualify them from dishing out money right on election day?
And I think that's why I think the legal framework needs to cover what appears to be gaps in our electoral laws. Like I mentioned, we do not organize party primaries. So if something happens in party primaries, although it is an election that feeds into our roadmap, there is a boundary around it. There are complaints that we can't handle that arise out of party primaries. We'll send them back. Or maybe they go to courts of law as Electoral Commission because we do not organize that election.
You almost sound like there's a Chinese wall between Electoral Commission and primaries. Because
there are aspects of party primaries that we cannot handle. We cannot hear, for example,
I hear you, and but there are complaints, and there's a video that has gone around. Honorable Rukuntana was dishing out money. And when he saw the people were not coming to his line, he decided to move and say, you know what, after you are finished voting is when I will give you the money. And that is evidence there. His reaction with the gun is also evidence there. Can't the Electoral Commission draw this to court to be able to put this person in order? Because this looks like it's going to be the trend of the day.
It doesn't mean that we do not, they are not candidates. They have not even come to us. You can't disqualify someone who is not a candidate. And then what does the law say about a person who is not yet convicted of anything, who remains a suspect, a suspected action of that? So I think the law needs to help us address areas that are, for example, the ones you're citing, because the Electoral Commission cannot be the accuser and the prosecutor and then the judge, you know. It violates the principles of the judicial, the principles of law as we know them, the basic principles of law. I think there is citizen responsibility. Raise up a case and then you pursue it to a logical conclusion.
At this point, you're asking us to do a citizen's arrest. But these are questions. Someone says, hi, Timothy, I'm watching live from Tinder. Thank you for watching. To the spokesperson, the roadmap, is it free and fair? And can we have a copy of it? And also he suggests and says, can the candidates be able to use digital platforms to be able to combat COVID? Has the EC talked to the police about scientific elections? Therefore, they should allow politicians to address us on digital platforms. He also sends one more question and says, how come the EC has not come out to condemn the violent acts of the police towards the members of the opposition that say, for the things they said during talk shows and TV shows? I haven't got the last question, but yes.
First of all, we reacted to unfortunate incidents we saw in the within party primaries, including, riotous conduct and violent conduct and other, behavior that we think derails the electoral process. We came out clear on that and condemned that and put the nation on notice that these are things that do not promote democracy and participation. They will keep people away and they will not be, helping us to progress as a democracy. So we are not silent on that. We came out clearly in a statement on that. So then he said, do we have an engagement with police? Do they know about what we are preparing to do? Yes, we have done engagements with police because there have been issues and confrontations between police and aspiring candidates. We've brought all of them together. We've engaged with the security agencies and COVID task forces about how to support the exercise of rights during the electoral process. These are going to be nominated candidates going out there to campaign, and in a regulated manner, because it's not the usual campaigns that we've known. So we've shared about the SOPs with police force, so that when they are enforcing the guidelines, there's a uniform application. Because COVID affects all of us.
I want to close with two questions from you, then be able to get to Nancy. One is, have you had a conversation with UCC? There are notices coming out saying people should not use digital platforms and all these things. Yet we're trying to combat COVID, and this could be a place where they can be able to speak to people.
I think UCC has come out clear on that. They have explained that they are not telling you not to use your phone, but it has come out clearly to explain that there are people who are using, internet-based platforms to provide exactly the service Spirit TV provides.
The last one was actually you cannot do live feed.
Yeah, I did not have all the experience, the explanations from UCC. I do not certainly speak with UCC, but I know that when we were developing SOPs, one of the agencies that we talked to, the regulator, was UCC, and we talked about use of media-based platforms for purposes of political campaigns and their guidelines to that effect. So as we nominate candidates, one of the engagements and the trainings and the guidance we'll be taking them through is that we will be using platforms like this, and Nancy is already here. We will be sending messages on phone, and because the moment you say that you cannot use media, then you are saying go back to Mengo Primary School ground and put up a mass public rally, which the Minister of Health has advised against. So I believe we are going to move together, and we already started on that journey with UCC.
The last question I have for you, Paul, is the national register that we're going to use. Are we getting voters' cards, or are we using the NIN? And also looking at the primaries, mirroring the primaries of NRM, where the president disregarded the register and said, allow everyone to vote. Is that where we're going?
In order to participate, to vote during general elections, you must be a registered voter, and you must present yourself at a polling station where you are registered as a voter, where your particulars appear, whether you have a national ID card or not. So we do not have a voter's card right now in Uganda, so I don't want to have our audience confused that there is a voter's card. No. A national ID card is a very, very helpful document. It helps to ease your identification. But we've already captured your particulars on the National Voters Register. We're also using biometric equipment. We'll be able to verify and prove that you are a registered voter at that polling station. So if you have your national ID, you need to keep it. It's very important, because persons who registered as voters also were issued with national IDs. Although some of them may not have them physically. What if your ID is lost today and tomorrow is polling day, and you appear on the voters register, your photograph is there, every particular is there. We also have a biometric reader. We will take your thumbprint. You are also known. We also issued you with a voter locator slip. You also checked on the phone. You have everything. So present yourself at a polling station where you're registered as a voter, and you'll be assisted. Those guidelines will be coming in due course, because right now we're not even talking about a polling day, because we're still doing nominations.
Nancy, let me get to you. I don't know if you have the confidence to be able to get out and run still with everything that Paul has given us. But one of the things that amazed me this week was the president's speech to the UN, asking the UN that all debt for African countries needs to be forgiven so that we can focus on the combating COVID-19. Our debt is almost 48% to our GDP. How are you going to manage debt?
First and foremost, that comment he made that we should be forgiven our debt is...
and the last time we were forgiven was 2005.
Being forgiven of debt is a good thing. Anyone who's borrowed money before knows that if the person you're indebted to decides to cancel your debt, it's a blessing indeed. So that would be great. However, when we look at the use of our public funds, if I lent you money, for example, to pay school fees for your children, or to start a business, or to do something that you have discussed with me and I feel I should actually lend you money because you need it. And then the next thing I know is I find you in a bar that very night, spending the very money you said you were going to use for your children's school fees on maybe alcohol. Would I be very comfortable in lending you money again, or even dealing with you as a country? If I do, that means I have an ulterior motive in giving you this money. Is it because I want to help you, or is it because I want to put you in a position where I can enslave you and control you? So it's a double-edged sword, this discussion of debt. Anyway, back to what do I plan to do about the debt? First and foremost, of course, you need negotiations with the person you're indebted to. As a nation, we're a third world country, Uganda, very unfortunate, and we just happen to be indebted to different countries, and of course the World Bank as well. But the money that our forefathers borrowed was probably not used for the things that it was meant to be used for. And yet when you divide this debt across our country, every Ugandan, even the unborn, have debt. You come into this world with debt. So the first thing is, number one, you negotiate, if you can negotiate yourself out of debt, that is a good thing. If you can negotiate yourself into a position where you can comfortably pay the debt, it's also another good thing. Debt that Uganda has is something that can be managed not only by negotiating your way out of or to reduce the interest rate, but also to work with these governments or these bodies that we are indebted to deal with the existing debt, because that is the problem.
With the debt,
now,
shall we
moving
not be
forward,
giving away national assets?
No. You see, as
it happened in Zimbabwe.
Yes, it happened. When you go into a negotiation as an underdog, you find yourself pushed into corners that you probably cannot come out of. And right now, with the current leadership, we are slowly going towards giving away the land title for Uganda, because we've seen that most of our natural resources are rumors. Do you know that there is oil in Uganda? Do you know?
I have heard and read.
It's a rumor. Do you know we have marble in Uganda?
Do we?
Do you know?
Do we?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have gold?
We have a refinery in Entebbe.
Okay. Do we have it? Have you seen it? You see, this is what we as Mission 56 are discussing. It's not about talking about the national resources as rumors. We need Ugandans to benefit. Let's look at a place like Dubai. They had oil as their natural resource, and they used this to benefit the citizens of their land. Since we discovered oil and we know that it started being extracted, we know we have gold. No, sorry, we don't know. We have rumors that we have gold, oil, marble, and all the natural resources that are in our land. How many Ugandans have actually benefited from these? Is it possible to use the natural resources we have to pay the debt, the existing debt, and also help not accumulate extra debt, but work with the resources that we have to build our nation and our different sectors?
We have been borrowing money against the oil that you were saying we are alleging to have. So right now, if the oil was there, I think we don't have it because we've already paid for it.
We don't know that. You see, the negotiations that we have, a short while back, we had a presidential handshake of lawyers who discussed us out of a difficult situation. And yet before that, we were put in that situation by actual people who we thought, we trusted with this negotiation, but they were bribed, and you know the story was very long. And we have leaders right now who negotiate Uganda into debt for personal gain. A lot of the debt that Uganda has right now is unnecessary. If we are a country that has a deficit budget year in, year out, and yet we have people on this planet whose net worth is our national budget times very many years, there is something wrong. And these are just simple businessmen. But as a nation, we are always in deficit. What can we cut? What can we deal with? First and foremost, we talked about earlier the administration cost of our country. We have a lot of redundant public servants that are being paid every month, but they leave their jackets on the chair and they go out. Something you will not find in the private sector. That is why when you asked about political experience, I asked you, is it actually what Uganda needs to move from where we are? Because the political experience we have are those officials who leave jackets on their chairs and go out. They have 2 jobs, they have 3 jobs, they're unaccountable, no integrity, corruption is on the increase, and therefore it's increasing our national debt. So our national debt is a multifaceted monster that we need to handle very carefully. We have to deal with corruption, for example, because corruption, whether we like to admit it or not, leads us to our national debt. We cannot just be talking about these things. We have to make corruption so expensive that it will affect not just the person who is corrupt, but It will affect their whole community or their family, so that they know that it is not the responsibility of one individual not to be corrupt. But as a family, we discuss, you can't do this because it's going to affect our children, it's going to affect our family and our community. So when we are discussing national debt, again, we are dealing with a skin disease. We are not dealing with foundational issues of how we came to have this debt in the first place. And why is it being badly managed? Why has it grown? You have to ask the precursor questions before you get to try to deal with a problem that you think you have. The problem is what is visible. Just like an iceberg. A very small percentage of an iceberg is what you see on top. But the bigger problem is unseen. So as leaders, we have to retract and ask the necessary question, the foundational questions. Yes, we have debt. Debt figures. We look nice when we are talking about our national debt stands at this, our economy stands at this. Thank you very much for having that knowledge. Anybody can have it because now we have Google. We have access to all the websites that give us this information. So it's no longer about leaders who can throw out figures and show that they are well researched or someone fed them this information. It's about asking the pertinent questions. Why are we in this place? How can we deal with it? How did it go bad? How did it come about? And that is how we want to deal with most of these challenges that Uganda has. From the foundation up, let's deal with corruption. Let's deal with, is it poverty that is causing the debt? Is it corruption that is causing the debt? Is it poor management that is causing the debt? Is it an unnecessarily large administrative budget that is causing the debt? Is it policy issues that are causing the debt? Do we have unnecessary infrastructure that is being put in place that is not even being fully utilized, but because we needed, one official wanted a cut, a kickback, which has become a popular place. If I want kickback, I will allow you to build a certain road, regardless of how heavy the traffic on that road is. Yesterday we were on one of the bypasses, which I shall not mention here, for peace of, I believe in peace and unity of our nation. There is a certain bypass that was built, and we're thinking about, did they actually do a feasibility study? Did someone stand there and see how many cars, what is the traffic on this road? Do we actually need this road? Because it was built, and for the time we were parked there, we could hardly see cars passing over. But we have roads that are very heavy, that carry very heavy traffic, that have not been paid attention to. It's slow. So we wonder, as we talk about this debt and this poverty that we are in, are we actually in genuine debt? Does Uganda genuinely have poverty? Or have these things been artificially created so that you can control? Because in politics, it is said that if you want to control people, impoverish them so that they can continue depending on you. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about growth and establishment as a nation, you need well-empowered individuals. When we look at our nation coming from the 80s all the way to this time, have Ugandans been impoverished intentionally so that they can feed off the hands of our leaders? That is the same thing that is happening when we talk about election malpractices. Someone is given 2,000 shillings and they vote their future away. Why? Is it because they are stupid? Or is it because they need food that day for their children?
They need food.
Exactly.
Nancy, I'm going to ask that we have run out of time here on The Truth, The Lies and the Politics. You have had Nancy, you have had Paul. Paul, thank you for coming. Nancy, thank you for coming through. I pray that we have peaceful elections, and I also pray for you that as the Lord wills, whatever happens, come 8th February next year. But till next Wednesday when we bring you other political candidates, please remember, leadership begins with you. And as Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So go out there, make your vote count for whatever issue is yours. Till next Wednesday, God bless you and keep it Jesus.
a place for you.
Beauty for Ashes, reaching out to the world of the heartbroken and the destitute through physical and spiritual rehabilitation, professional and pastoral counseling, rebuilding hope through the Word of God and personal